Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Peterson, and we are here with the Balance Your Life podcast, our evolving consciousness.
I'm Deana Valente, and we are thrilled to bring you one of our dearest friends, soul brother, and just an absolute beautiful spirit on this planet, Dr. Robert Kandarjian.
Thank you.
Yes, and Robert is the reason that I do everything I do today. He is the one who got me on the path for my mission.
How long ago was that?
That was almost 21 years ago now. So, Robert, I had trouble in my family with an illness, basically, and Robert just came into my life serendipitously through one of my friends, and he really helped and healed everything. And from that, I said, I have to leave my corporate job and I need to go work for this man. And I did. And we started out really grassroots.
Yeah.
Just Robert's background is chiropractic, but at the time when I met him, he was doing spiritual healing, which, you know, you can tell, we'll talk about that in a second. But he, it was amazing. I didn't know any of these. Yeah, I didn't know anything about spiritual healing, hands-on healing. So,
And I actually met you because I was having a fair. I wanted Dr. Robert to be in it.
Right.
So I called, and Deb was now representing him. So 20
It was
years
my
ago,
phone number.
I met you guys, and it was just like,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So we did a lot of things, and
That
now
was a while ago as well.
Oh, yeah.
that
That was like
almost
17, 18 years ago.
No, I think it was close to 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Right.
that's what started it all.
Yeah.
And so tell everybody a little bit about your background, how you got
Started
started.
to work with your family members and clan, your clan,
Right.
and help them out. Wow, that was quite a while.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I started with chiropractic. You know, I graduated in '83 with a chiropractic degree, and now that was 41 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Get old.
And and you know, years into the practice, you know, it's an evolutionary process, right? Years into the practice, I realized like I have to incorporate other things. You know, it's nutrition being one of them initially, and then you know, spiritual healing being the next part, and kind of reviewing the soul journey of a patient. You know?
Right. And that just started coming to you, right? Is that what you've told me?
Well, it felt like this is what I need to. I need to bring the soul journey. It can't just be about the body or the diet,
Right.
which are crucial because they are the. I mean, the body is the
Foundation.
vehicle
Yeah.
of the soul's expression, right? So, I had to move it into the soul journey, and I found out that there were many people that were really open to it. I didn't think there would be an openness.
Right.
20
Especially
plus.
back then.
Right.
Even 20 plus. I mean, there's definitely more openness now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's why we're talking about this now.
Yeah.
Right. Back
Here we
then,
are.
this was very,
Here we are now today. It's 2024.
Yeah.
Right? September. So, yeah, I mean, 20 plus years ago, first of all, we didn't have the internet.
No, this is true.
Yeah. So everything you did in the area, in the subject matter of spiritual healing, you would go to the Barnes and Noble or whatever, and look at the books, and the book section was very small.
Right.
It was like the size of a closet.
Absolutely.
And now,
Right. And if I could just jump in and say that 20 years ago, when I, was seeking help, I did all the medical things, the medicines, the therapies, you name it, not really any kind of help, maybe a little bit. I was led to you, and I had no clue what you did. I was like, okay, but I was just desperate, and I was like, I will try anything. I really took the attitude of, okay, this can hurt, but I have no idea what this stuff is healing. What do you mean? I will never forget, like I think it was the end of the first appointment, and you said to me, okay, do get on the table now. And I looked at you and I said, why? I don't have anything I have to heal. How? But I was naive. I thought you meant like physically. I didn't realize that it encompassed, emotional soul healing that you were doing.
Right.
And then you explained that to me. But Yeah, at least now people have more, but when I first started working for you, people thought I had, I'd say, oh, I work for an energy healer.
Right.
And they'd be like, what? What's that? And they think I had two heads.
Right.
And now people go, oh, is that Reiki?
Yeah.
Right now they're a little more, yes.
And guess how old is energy healing? Like,
like
5,000 years
Yeah,
old?
we're finally
Right.
coming back around.
Yeah, right.
We're finally coming back around. So,
Right.
Yeah.
the ancients knew.
Right.
Yes.
And we're finally opening up and coming back around, and that's why it's so important now.
Yeah.
That you've done all along. You've been a pioneer and taught many of us. We've had so many guests on here that we talk off camera, and it's like, my first experience was with Dr. Robert Kandarjian.
Right. Yes.
Mine too. I did my first energy training seminar with you 16 or 17 years ago.
Right. Right.
So
once you made that pivot from chiropractic, and I mean, we know you're still a chiropractor,
Yes.
but you really focus. I mean, that's what you've been doing all these years is the healing.
The combination.
Yes.
But again, coming back to the soul journey,
Yes.
focusing on just not only the spine and the physical aspects, but the soul journey of the patient. And it is ancient, right? Eastern medicine. I mean, energy healing goes back thousands of years, especially with the Chinese influences, where they were using acupuncture. Years ago, I mean, thousands of years ago, before they had the needles, the steel needles, they would use like the bamboo needles, right? Like they would shave it down to because they knew exactly where the meridians were, and they would use it. It was, I mean, it goes that far back. It's nothing new. And they were also doing, running the hands over the energy of the person. If it was congested, they knew how to eliminate the congestion. Right. I mean, the Asian influence is very, very strong. So, but of course, America is a very young country, right? So when you say energy healing in a country like that's 200 plus years old, everybody's scratching their heads. But the internet has helped, the internet has really opened it up.
Robert,
where people are definitely more aware or more familiar with the language, when you said Reiki,
right, sure.
Or meridian healing or acupuncture.
Right, most people know what that is, these days.
They're more familiar. Coming back to the point that you made, which is like, oh, why don't you get on the you need to get on the table.
Right.
That was about, the understanding that you can't heal an individual in isolation, right? Especially
a child,
especially if I'm dealing with a family. If I'm dealing with a child, right? Yes, some treatments can be done in isolation. Maybe it's a dietary change, something of that sort. That is easy. But a lot of times, especially if there are difficult conditions, and certainly if there's behavioral conditions, my understanding has always been, and also it goes back to Chinese medicine, is that you have to address the tribe, you have to address the higher ups, right?
Yeah.
Like, because their understanding is that when you heal the adults, the children automatically get better.
Yeah,
they adjust.
It's how the energy works. Right?
Yes, because the energy is really trickled down, right? As children were absorbing the energy of the parents and the adults, of the teachers or the grandparents, right? The caregivers. So that's why I was like, you need to get on the table if you want your family.
Right, but I had no clue. And I was like, okay,
because,
what's this guy doing?
It actually surprises me, and it's a little upsetting when I come across youngsters who are in therapy with psychologists or social workers or even school counselors, and the parents have never been talked to. Yeah. Like they've never been engaged in the process, and I found that, and it still goes on today, and I find that to be very unhealthy. I really think whatever issues children have, whether it's behavioral or dietary and today, I mean, there's another issue, which is screen addiction, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest addictions right now. These addictions or these behavioral problems are not going to be corrected if the adults in the lives of these children are not corrected.
Yeah.
The adults have to be corrected.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, to have a child go to the psychologist once a week for 2-3 years, and he's, let's say, 12, 13 years old, and that psychologist has seen the parents maybe 5 times a year, to me, there's a problem there.
Right. Right.
But that's my bias.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I think you're right.
Yeah, I would like to take it back for a second, Robert. Did you know that you had the ability to tune into people as a youngster?
Good question. I think I did. I didn't grow up in an environment that was supportive,
Right.
of
Being intuitive.
being intuitive or even being empathic.
Yes.
Like, because we're empaths, right? When we
Right.
sit with people, we kind of,
To feel their
we tune in and we can feel something, right? So I grew up in Lebanon, and it was not the greatest neighborhood, and and certainly teachers were definitely not open to the individual aspirations of children. It was a very it was a very community-oriented environment where you followed what the adults said, and you didn't have many choices, if any.
Right.
So whatever was going on for me was very private. It was like I just processed it on my own. I kept it to myself.
Right.
And did I expand on whatever it was I was feeling? Of course not. It was not an environment to do that. It was probably too scary to do that.
Sure.
The support wasn't there. So for me, it was kind of a hidden experience, and
I feel like if I'm remembering correctly, one time we had a conversation, many years ago, that you told me that these gifts of your, this intuition and your healing didn't really come out till you were almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I should say I didn't allow it.
Okay. Yeah, but I remember that you said 40 because I remember thinking, wow, that's like, kind of in there.
Yeah.
And
that was 30 years ago.
Right. There we go.
I'm almost 70 now.
Oh, right.
Right. So,
Right.
I didn't allow it because, I grew up in a very didactic environment, childhood, especially the educational system there. And also here, I don't know, it just didn't feel safe.
Sure.
Perhaps maybe I wasn't brave enough,
And you probably didn't have anybody in the family
Oh, definitely not.
support it and
Right.
and help.
No, there was no, there were all,
Well, I
that's
guess.
well said. There were no role models.
Although, didn't your mom read the
Yeah, but I'm actually,
Because you felt
my mom used to read these Armenian coffee cups. My background is Armenian.
Yeah.
So they would, she would read the tea leaves, as they say, and she was quite accurate.
Yeah.
So
So it was in your family.
there was something there.
Yeah.
There was something there that was passed on, but it wasn't something you sat and talked about.
Right. But once your gifts really came out, and then that's when you...
Once I allowed it, I should say, 40 years ago, then I did. I allowed it. And, but coming back to the mentors, we didn't have any role models, right?
Yeah. Okay.
30, 40 years ago, there were role models. There were rarely books. It's like there were really very, very few books. Like Edgar Casey was probably one of our heroes.
Yes.
He had really put out the material in the 50s, 60s, 40s, I guess, and few other people like him. But there was. And also, I grew up in the Christian tradition, right? So in the Christian tradition, that was not something we touched on. Although, Christ was a role model, of course.
Right. I know.
Christ is a role model.
Yes.
And Christ is the healer. He's the carpenter and the healer and the messenger and the way. But nevertheless, in the religious aspect of the Christian tradition, it was more of just following the commandments and not necessarily going into an understanding that there's more to the body than the physical system, right?
Right.
Like actually, what opened me up a little more was when I studied Hinduism because there's a little bit more opening to looking at the body as a vehicle that carries the soul, and there's an energetic body and the chakra system, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, I remember when I was like 25, 30 years old, I was trying to find books on chakras. It was so hard.
Yeah.
It was,
Right.
it was, I may have found two or three. Two or three. Yeah.
Sure.
And
See, so you were sensitive before 40. You're very aware.
I mean, I was reading Edgar Cayce when I was in my early 20s.
Okay. Yeah. So that's.
And so, yeah.
So once you allowed it, then like how did it work? Did you just say, okay, I'll accept this, and then your guide started speaking to you? Like what? What was the process there?
Right. I'm going to pass a message on to the young healers coming up. Right?
Okay.
Please do.
When you allow it, right, you set the intention. It's like you got to set the intention, right?
Right.
I declare an intention to allow the gift to express itself, right? That's one. The second thing has to do with I allow this intention to serve, not self-serve. Right? And when that happens, then the channeling and the service is clean.
Yes.
It's not contaminated by what's in it for me. It's about what's in it for us. So,
and that serves the soul. I mean, we do have to respect and appreciate and take care of our soul, and that does go to serving the soul because we are all connected.
Right.
So, it's a soul-to-soul connection.
Yeah.
Right? The personality has to step out a little bit, and we have to see the person as a soul with their strengths as well as weaknesses.
You're really good at that.
And
I could say, he's amazing at that. Like just to say, okay, and somebody's being really difficult over the years, you have said things like, well, you got to see them as the soul that they are, that they're doing the best they can.
Right. Step out of judgment.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'll work on everyone. Some people are just too difficult to work with. It's like that's where the let go, let God comes in.
Right.
I'm not doing this one.
What's amazing, and we know this, is that when Robert does, you ask him about working on someone, and he'll tap in, and you literally can say, you can look at it, and I guess, I don't know, you see a picture and well, they need me or they need this, because for a long time we would just say Robert is a medical intuitive. You've worked with doctors, you've worked with nurses, you can. When we have doctors that can't figure things out,
yes, he can see right. Well, he can scan the body too and figure out where. I mean, there've been so many people over the years that they can't get an answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people literally tell me, "Robert saved my husband's life by." I mean,
he saved my daughter's life.
When they can't figure it out, he can see where the blockage is, and then oftentimes remove it.
But not always. I do want to comment.
Yes. Yeah. I said often.
Often. But when somebody's heavily armored, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy when they're heavily armored. And sometimes the armor isn't. I got a few stories on that.
Okay.
Yeah. When they're heavily armored, it's I can't get in.
Yeah.
It's like the door is locked. I can't get in. Yeah. And also sometimes what will happen is the person may be open, well, to some degree, but one of their ancestral members comes in and armors them. And I can't get in. That's happened to me a number of times where I have to actually move that ancestor out in order to get in.
Right.
Because the ancestor feels like I'm invading or I'm...
Right.
They're being protective. The ancestors being protective.
Right.
And so we have to intuitively dialogue with the ancestor and say, listen, this is a safe space. And kind of gain their trust. And once that happens, it's not always successful, but when that happens, then they can open the door and kind of, the door opens and then there's more, accessibility. Not everybody's accessible.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes even family members, they're not always accessible, because especially family members, because there's a lot of emotional connection there, right?
Right.
I mean, really, to do this work, although we have to be empathic to do the work, we also have to almost be on it, like, I don't want to, like, we have to be unsentimental. Yeah. Like, I don't want to say unemotional.
Right.
That's not the right term. We have to really not have sentiments. That's why it's much easier for me to work on a stranger than somebody who's a best friend I've known for 30 years.
Sure. Yeah.
Because there's sentimentality there. And sentimentality gets in the way of intuition, because sentimentality, what brings with it desires, right? It's like, because I've known you 30, it's like, I want you to be well. The personality desires come in, and the healer is not at his peak or her peak at that point. Yeah.
So how does it happen when you meet someone and you're going to work on them? Do you know before you, like, you get a picture before you get in, you're hearing things? Let's talk about that process.
Yeah. So funny.
I think
ask the same thing.
Yeah, part one is permission.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Soul permission.
Yes, because if they're long distance, I mean, if they're in front, if they've come in for a session, of course there's permission. By the way, permission doesn't mean there isn't resistance.
Right.
Because I can have somebody who gives me complete permission, but they have resistance.
That's right.
Because if I bring something up, and they're like, no.
I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah. It's
But
sometimes
you're getting soul
the healing
permission,
process.
right?
You have soul permission.
Yes.
But the personality permission isn't always there. I said, it's not like,
Yeah.
I want you to fix me, but if it's something I don't want to admit about myself, we're not going.
Right.
Well, right. I know.
They're allowed.
or if it's something I don't want to look at.
Right.
Yeah. Like an example, right?
Yes.
It's like a person comes in and says, I feel really blocked around marriage. It's like, I want to have a partner in my life. And okay, that's good. It sounds like, on a soul level, you feel that you're ready, right? And then we start peeling away like the resistance. So why are you blocked? There's some kind of a resistance. The resistance may be that, you're carrying an energy that is threatening. It's like on when you go out on your dates, or you have a very alpha energy. You can come on strong and threatening, and that's the personality. And I say, we need to soften that a little bit. And the person may say, no, I don't want to. I like that energy, because that energy protects me. I'm not going to soften that.
Right.
And so you see, you have resistance.
Right.
And of course, we have to go into, like, why are you not willing to give up that alpha energy? Of course, that all comes from childhood wounding, past lives. So they're not ready to do it. I mean, they may say, I want this on a soul level, but the personality may not be ready, right? Sure. So we have to kind of educate the personality and kind of help the personality grow and mature, so they can drop this resistance and really open it up. So just because there's permission doesn't mean there's not resistance. I mean, it's really a great, great, great joy for me to work with people who give me permission and have no resistance. That's really,
it's easy.
People like that move very quickly.
Right. And you see a result. Yeah. But you are, just to clarify, when you're doing your healing, you are working with your guides, and you are working with their soul.
And their guides.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how that
Sure,
works.
because there is a like an interlocking activity that takes place.
Okay.
It's like your guides connect to my guides, and your guides will tell my guides, like, okay, she's not ready to go to that next level, so we have to slow it down. We can't get that much energy, and we'll carry that action next session, maybe, you know.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because it's great. We've seen like Robert, you know, holding seminars for people and then asking permission to work on people. And Deb and I are going, he's getting the whole story of what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
And then he'll just be like, I want you to go home, punch your pillow, and curse. Right? and it's because you're trying to open up that block for them to take back their power. And there's so much more. And Deb and I are like, Robert, just tell them.
Yeah,
we
just want to arguing with you for years.
Right. You're so respectful of people who just want to do the work. So what comes out that they should do in action, the physical is always... Right. It's fantastic. And just, you know, but I'm sure when you're working, and I know this for a fact, when you're working with people one-on-one, you have the time to get there and talk to them, but you're always so respectful of the personality.
Well, and let's say he gets a lot of information. Like what's going on there.
Well, yes, there's the story, right? I'll get the story. Not always, but in most cases, I'll get the story. But you know, I don't want to get lost in the story. Well, first of all, in a group setting, we have to be very, very respectful.
And you're
right.
I can't share the story. I mean, if somebody comes from, you know, a childhood abuse situation, so we can't share that in a group setting, right? We'll just share this. Okay, we're not going to share the story, but we're going to share what's going to heal the story.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Right.
If that person standing before me at this point isn't this 50-year-old adult male who is still carrying the story and the wounding and the pain of that story. So let's find an outlet, let's find a release. And the release may be like, okay, you're going to keep a anger diary and go out and scream, whatever, right? So we're going to release that. So yeah, I think we need to go to the essence of the healing. Like that's what I'm interested in. Stories are very interesting and wonderful, but I don't, and I do have a problem with practitioners who get lost in the story and just carry on like.
No, you just want to get in there.
Yeah, we want to get
clear it out.
Let's get in there and let's.
So talk a little bit about how you do that. That's like talk about your process. That's very fascinating.
Well, everyone's different.
Okay, but the process in general,
in general. I don't know. Is there a generality?
I don't know. Well, your guys give you info.
Yeah. Okay. So the generality is that I have to not the beginning phase. You know, of course, that we have to listen to a person and see and listen to what the complaint is. What is the complaint? The complaint may be A, but the issue is not A.
Right.
Yeah.
They may complain like, hey, you know, I really have this these aches in my body, or I have this block where I'm not, you know, I'm blocking finances or finding a new job. That's the complaint. But the complaint isn't always the real problem.
Yeah.
Right, and
sometimes it is. Sometimes it is, but because not everybody's in touch with the deeper layer, right? The deeper layer of the complaint.
Right. So, like, and we should say that, you know, we always talk about where does it start from first? What's making it turn into, you know,
that
right? It's
let's peel that onion. You know, let's get to the core.
Yeah. And that's what you do. You work at the core
because it may manifest in the body, but
where did it come from? Right.
Yeah.
Why do you have a pain in the back? Why do you why is that hurt? Yeah.
Right.
And what are you holding? What are you
holding?
Yeah.
Right. What are you holding that needs to let go?
Great ability to, you see that in my experience with, you see that and then start working on that.
How does it work when I say to you, Robert, what do I need? And you're like, you need some vitamin D and you need to take this and read this book. And it's just like, what is happening there? Because you know, somebody will have a diagnosis with something and we'll just give you a call and you'll say, they need this, this, and this. What is it
Yeah. How do you know that?
And it's
Right.
nutrition.
It's a
and
knowing,
where
right?
is he pulling
Yes,
this
it's a
stuff?
knowing, and it drops in.
It's a knowing that I didn't know.
Yeah, right.
No, it's very interesting. Just
Yeah.
that, earlier I was talking to your intern Bianca, right? And before I just met her, right?
Yeah.
She presented a complaint, and I didn't know. It's like I've never met. I don't.
Yeah, you
know,
haven't met her.
I don't know what it is that she needs. But when I decided that I want to get an answer, and she gave me full permission, right? And that's it. The information came in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a download. You could call it a download of information, right? Directly from my guides.
Yes.
At least for me, it's from a higher power, and so that it came in and it said you need to do X, Y, and Z, right? So to answer your question, I don't know if I am, but to answer your question, it's kind of a download. It's really like my brain connecting to the greater brain.
Right.
Like,
It's amazing.
it's consciousness. Okay.
Yes,
Actually,
that's what you want to talk.
actually, I want to touch on that. Like the next phase of study on this planet, in my opinion, is going to be the study of consciousness.
and it is. It's a thing. It's
Right.
Hence our
finally being
evolving.
recognized by science
Yes.
as a thing. It's a real thing.
Yes.
Consciousness is something now that it's here.
Right. So there is what we'll call the cosmic consciousness, right?
Okay.
The universal mind.
Yeah.
The cosmic consciousness. Think of it as a library. Think of it as the master computer, right?
Yeah.
And so the brain is an instrument that can link to that, okay? But not everybody can do it.
Right.
Because they're distracted.
Okay.
If we can create a culture that is not distracted, right, and an educational system that does not take children out of their center,
Yeah.
right, then people are going to have a much stronger connection to the cosmic consciousness. So for me, when I gave that reading, let's call it a reading, when I gave that reading to Bianca, it was a piece of information that came from the cosmic consciousness. And my higher guides and her higher guides communicated and decided that this is what we need, So let's go to the big library, bring that information down and give it to her.
Through you. Right.
Through me,
Yes.
through my vocals,
Absolutely.
through my vehicle.
And then when you work on someone, you're like using sound, you're using movement.
Well, when I'm working on someone, I don't.
So you don't think.
Yeah, I was teaching this work for many
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
what's the first thing I always teach people?
Get out of your head.
Get out.
Don't think.
Right.
You can't do this work if you keep thinking.
Right.
You have to go to the right brain. You have to go to the. Not that we're abandoning the left. The left comes in at certain points, but you can't do this work if you don't know how to surrender. Yeah, you have to be able to get out of the head. You have to not think. You have to allow. It's really an allow.
And he makes it seem so simple.
But
Yeah, and when you allow, then like for me, when I allow, when somebody's lying on the table or sitting in a chair, when I go into allow, the allow system connecting to the cosmic consciousness says, okay, Robert, bring your hand to the belly and your other hand to the back of the head, and let's stay there until whenever, right? And now move here. Get up and move around. So there is this.
But it all happens so quickly.
It's a surrendered system, It's a surrendered system. There isn't a mathematical guideline that's going A, B, C. Actually, there is, but it's a cosmic mathematical guideline. It's not a human mathematical guideline that you can really write on a piece of piece of paper.
And there are a lot of people who are studying Reiki these days and who are learning how to be sensitive to energy. And Robert has trained Reiki masters. No, there's this the hands-on healing is absolutely incredible. But thankfully, people are starting to get more curious and open up to new options. And I think that what you were saying before about everybody being closed down, while that is still happening, more and more people are reaching out and benefiting from what you teach.
Yes. There's definitely more receptivity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No doubt. I mean, especially in the younger generation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The older generation is receptive usually after they have tried the mainstream modalities and failed.
Yeah.
Or not failed only, but sometimes it hasn't been enough for them.
You know,
They need something
I'm going to
additional.
share a story here real quickly because you will always be respectful of see what your doctor says.
Absolutely.
I called Robert when Gia was sick. She was very, very sick. She couldn't move, and doctors were
She is your daughter.
my daughter. And doctors were telling her all types of things. We were getting nowhere, and I called Robert, and he said, I want you to do a full blood test, which I had just done. He said, I want you to test their vitamin D. That kid needs vitamin D, but I don't want you to give her any, wait for the blood work to come back.
Yeah.
So me, knowing Robert, said, this is what she needs. And I went out and I bought a very good liquid vitamin D. And within 3 days, Gia was out of bed after 3 months of not moving, ricocheting around. And then we went to him and he worked on her. And of course, when the blood work came back, the interesting thing was, well, the doctors were like, well, it was in range. And I showed it to him and he's like, it's at the bottom of the range. This
Yeah,
kid's
that's
at 20.
horrible.
This is why she can't move. And so
Yeah.
so you said to me, and you knew what it was, and I trust you so much that I just acted on it. But you said to me, well, wait to see what the medical doctor gives us back, and we'll take a look at it. Wait on the medical.
Yeah.
doctor.
He's cautious with that.
You're always cautious, and you're always wonderful. But
I call Robert all the time. I don't take a COVID test. I just call Robert. I don't take it. Do I have strep throat? Robert will say, yes. Yeah, or no. And then usually I will, I will confirm just for fun, just to say, oh, Robert told me already, and I just wasted $20 on this test. No, but I used to call him what. Yes, I would say 99% of the time. I mean, I used to call him all the time when the kids were sick,
right.
I'd be like, okay, does Matt have strep throat again? And he'd be like, yes, get to the doctor. Or, just because you save yourself a little time there of trying to make an appointment and forgetting.
Yeah.
So it's like, just dial Robert for the answer. Yeah. And then, of course, the more.
But we have these abilities, we all have it. I feel that there are some I see it sometimes, like some very evolved souls coming to this planet.
Yeah.
what's coming in now is incredible.
Yeah. I just
We
got
should talk about,
And that is why your work is needed now more than ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Because their guidance is needed.
Yeah, at this point,
He knows he's going to have to keep on training people.
Yeah, I think for me it's about training this young generation so that they don't lose the connection.
Right.
They're losing the connection. They're forgetting why they came to Earth. They're forgetting their and this is a very important topic for me because when you have a generation of children forgetting why they came to Earth, forgetting their life purpose, and also forgetting their life lessons, we have a problem.
Well, but Robert, but wouldn't you agree that the humanity has been for a very long time shutting down children with directing their beliefs so kids disconnect and forget? And that is how we move so far away from where we were in ancient times with healing and connecting. And that has been going on.
Yes.
I mean, I think we're starting to move back towards parents being open and kids coming in with, higher.
Right.
But I think that's been going on for a long time where parents have been shutting us down with either religion or school books or teachers and
Right.
I thought the newer souls that come in, the younger souls, whatever, are the younger people, not the younger souls. They might be actually older souls that they were coming in with a lot less, stuff to deal with than we did, right? Like,
well,
cleaner.
The highly evolved souls will usually not come into families and societies that are
a problem.
dysfunctional.
right.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, right.
Let's talk a little bit about
Well, I was going to say, I don't know. It's like, should we come back and talk about all that
at another time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole
But I do-
conversation. I feel
yeah.
like that's
I
we
actually
really
that's a
need
good
to-
conversation.
Yeah, we'd love to
because
talk about the souls coming in.
We have to
and-
talk about the future.
Yeah, and
We have to talk about the future.
and Robert is such a big I don't know what it is, proponent, whatever.
Advocate.
Yeah, well, no, I was going to say, you're really big on the life lessons. Like, one of my favorite things that I always say that Robert taught me many years ago, if you lose, don't lose the lesson. Right? And I tell that to people all the time. I was like, Robert says, or I don't even give you credit anymore. But it's
yours.
true, right? And so I think that, like, life lessons and that whole thing about is a whole thing in itself.
Yes.
Right? So do you want to just say a couple things? Because, you started to talk about the intention and how the intention is so important. Did you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I know Deana's favorite thing in the world is
I have to. This is sacred intentions to me is it's
written by Robert. Yes, many years ago.
It is a gift to this planet. These are your 14 sacred intentions that are just lovely and beautiful, and every human being should read this, in my opinion.
And it's so simple.
It's so simple and so true and so pure and so powerful.
Yeah,
and that
really is.
You see, when you work with people, you usually start with them setting an intention when you're working with
Right.
them. Let's talk about this a little bit.
Yeah. It all starts with intention, right?
Yeah.
So, as I was saying earlier, a patient comes in with a complaint and says, I have throat cancer, right? And with what is the intention? The intention is to help this person get out of that diagnosis and get better. So what that means is we're going to have, so they set the intention. The minute we set the intention, then we start, spirit comes in, right? Mm-hmm. Spirit comes in and starts helping. Mm-hmm. And how we're going to resolve this, whether I get the information or the patient gets the information. Actually, a lot of patients, if they can just get out of their own way and get out of that left thinking, overthinking brain.
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong with thinking, but the overthinking hurts us.
Everybody says the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
If they can get out of that overthinking brain, they can actually realize, like, oh, this is connected to, X, Y, and Z, and we can have a collaboration between myself and the patient to move it to a higher ground and healing. So it starts with intention. That's why I felt the book was very important. I may have written that maybe 25 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Could be 20.
You had it when I met you.
So it all starts with setting an intention, right? So in the book, I talk about, I declare an intention to forgive myself.
My favorite intention.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I love it.
We all need that, right? Actually, I declare an intention to forgive others. I declare an intention to ask for help. I declare an intention to live from my higher self, right? Yeah. So those are some of the 14 intentions.
Yeah.
14 of them there. Mm-hmm. So when people set the intention, automatically spirit comes in and starts moving things. Mm-hmm. It's like when you make an appointment to see the dentist, for example, it's like you set an intention, mm-hmm. right? And suddenly, don't be surprised if you end up getting information about your dental care. Right. It could be a commercial. Right. It could be a commercial on the TV, and you go, "Oh my God, I got to do that. That's the brush I should be using, not this other brush. I got to throw this away."
See, we could talk about signs too, right? Like there's just so many things.
And messages that will come in.
Yes.
Like the minute we set the intention.
Yes.
The minute we set the intention, the resistance is addressed. Right?
Yes.
The resistance is addressed, and it starts breaking down until that intention is manifested. But we also have to talk about something else. When people set intentions, they need to set soul intentions, not personality intentions. Right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people set personality intentions. It's like, I want that job. My intention is to get that job. Well, maybe that job is not for your highest good.
Right. So you always want to throw that in.
Like you gotta set an intention that's for your highest good, not for that comes from your lower self. A lot of people set intentions that comes from the lower self, and they're not even aware of it because they're not connected, right? They lost the connection.
Yeah.
So in the future, I think the discussion that's really important is how do we keep these kids connected?
Okay. So so we're gonna have you back to talk about that because it's been amazing. I mean, there's so much we can talk about. We have a whole thing on signs and
Well, I'm all about that. Like for me, the future is really where I'm at and at this point in my life, and it's about teaching what I know and passing on my
which is amazing.
my knowledge and to this younger generation that is getting very, very disconnected. It's very disheartening. They're disconnecting from their life purpose and their life lessons, and we've created, especially in the West, we've created a culture of children who are not empathic.
Right.
They're not empathic, and that's a problem.
Well, I think they are, but I think that if I could just add something to that, we have put something else in as a mask, and to stop us from connecting. Like TV was one that came in at one time and it distracted people from things, right? So having computers that we walk around with in our hands and kids are on that all the time, it derails them. It keeps them masked from what their purpose is. It is, it's a mask. I mean, it's why.
It's just double-edged sword.
Media. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Social media has its benefits, but it also has its curse. And we have to prevent our kids from getting into these addictions. We have to bring them back to nature. They're very disconnected from nature, especially in the West, especially in major cities, East Coast, West Coast. We're here in the East Coast. I'm all about the future and keeping kids connected.
Okay, good. We'll have you back to talk about that. Yeah, great. Well, thanks for being on with us today.
This was fun.
This was great. Thanks.
And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time.